One of the reasons that I've been less active with my videos lately is that we as in South Africa, have been having an electricity crisis. So basically, the national electricity provider, Eskom, is in a spot of trouble. They have a lot of failing, ill-maintained and underproducing power plants. They should have started building power plants years ago, but they didn't. The two new power plants are vastly underperforming what they should be. And it turns out that the last few months, up until this last week, Eskom's been avoiding load shedding, which is essentially rolling blackouts, by buying copious amounts of diesel and powering 5,000 megawatts off of diesel generators. They have so far, in less than a year, spent 5 billion rand on diesel, and now they've run out of money to buy more diesel because their budget allocated by the National Energy Regulation body of South Africa was 600 million, so they've almost gone 10 times over their budget for diesel. And at the moment, their stance on the radio that I heard was they would buy more diesel, but NERSA won't let them, so blame NERSA. NERSA's the energy regulator. So at the moment, we're undergoing what they call stage 4 load shedding, which is on average 3 2.5-hour slots of rotational rolling blackouts per day for residential and business areas. So there's some areas that are exempt from this, like the major airports and such. And I think commercial areas get a little bit less. But essentially, it is, 7.5 hours without electricity every day in 2.5-hour slots. They say they're doing this to avoid a complete blackout while they maintain and do essential repairs to the power plants that are, by the way, like really, really old, except for 2. So there's some serious electricity issues here. An interesting side effect of the rolling blackouts is that, especially in the substations, in the municipal substations, just turning the power off and on for the load shedding is actually damaging the substations. Last week, there was an explosion at a substation in Park. And so far, Eskom doesn't apparently know why there was an explosion. But that's kind of off topic a little bit, kind of. A lot of the municipalities are having issues where when the power is supposed to come back on, they can't because their substation breaks, and they can't turn the power back on for the municipal area that it services. So people are pretty upset. I'm pretty upset. My day practically revolves around whether I have electricity or not. There was a storm on Saturday night just in this area where I live, and from Saturday night until yesterday afternoon, so for 3 days, I didn't have electricity. And the process that I underwent to try and get them to get here to come and sort it out involved logging 3 separate faults, like 3 separate queries, which they kept closing even though there was no electricity. But anyway, Eskom's stance is that the government should bail them out, that they should just get more money so that they can carry on buying in diesel and kind of fixing up the power plants well enough to keep on running them, kind of. But the problem is that for years they've been increasing the electricity price quite drastically. So that now a lot of people are essentially going off-grid. A lot of people are minimizing their electricity usage. And Eskom is in what is apparently called a spiral of death, a service provider spiral of death. And that means that they cannot produce enough electricity to supply the demand. So they increase the price in order to help cover the costs of all and help pay back all the debt that they're in, which now is in the hundreds of billions of rands. When they increase the price, consumers use less, so they make less money, so they increase the price more, so more people use less, so the Eskom makes less money, so they increase the price more, and essentially the debt just keeps growing, and it is unsustainable. It cannot continue. It will crash and burn if they carry on doing it this way. There have been a lot of people who've made some really great suggestions for how to avoid the spiral of death, because if we don't change how we're doing things, things will keep happening the way that they have been happening. So if Eskom, instead of asking for bailouts, was to ask for funds to put in green electricity production measures like solar power or like wind turbines or like hydroelectric power plants, sustainable, eco-friendly, renewable energy where they're not reliant on diesel, they're not reliant on coal. Most of the plants are coal plants, and that's also another issue, is that they keep running out of money to buy more coal to power the power plants. Anyway, and there's one nuclear plant. So if they, instead of continuing to try and make a broken system work, were to start switching over to more sustainable, lower cost in terms of maintenance, electricity production measures, you know what? Maybe they could actually get out of the spiral that they're in and produce enough electricity to supply the country. Because at the moment, they're not producing enough. And this load shedding, according to them, is in order to stave off a national blackout, which would take 2 to 3 weeks to do a cold start, because every power plant needs power to get going and to actually run. So if there's some kind of overload and the whole grid breaks down and there's a national blackout, it's going to be very unpleasant for all of us sitting here in the dark with an already politically unstable, high number of protests. There's a lot of unrest happening at the moment. You have to check your route before you go to town to go and buy groceries in case there's a protest or in case the road's been blocked. So, Eskom, for fuck's sake, stop doing things the way you've been doing them and expecting different results. Do something different. Listen to the people who are giving you good, solid advice. Okay, so thank you for watching. You might see me again. You might not. Who knows these days? You know, yeah, anyway, I hope you have electricity, because, yeah, okay, bye.